Hey everyone, welcome. I see y'all are here. We've got Alexander. Ooh, we've got Stargazer.
Very
Daniel. Nice to have you all here. We are also just going to switch real quick.
Oh, there it is.
To
We're back.
our view.
See, look at how slick that was. Right? That was very slick.
We're doing something new today, so those of you who are used to our live streams becoming more seamless, we're going to be doing a studio tour today. So we've been playing around with different kinds of gear setups so that we can take you on the move with us. And we just lost the cam
again. Yeah.
So bear with us.
Yeah.
Now I look at the webcam. Bear with us as we figure out how we can do this so that we can take you on a tour with us. So as you all are tuning in here, give us a hi in the comments. Let us know where you're coming from. Here's Stefan.
I'm still here. Love it.
Welcome to our home bar. We're going to get started pretty soon with making some daisy cocktails. If you were here during the sidecar week, we talked about daisies a little bit. So we thought that would be a great template for just using what you have in your bar.
And what you've already got in your mind.
What do you want? What are you feeling? Yeah. Are you feeling like gin, tequila, rum, brandy?
Yeah, there you go.
What do you want? So pull out, whiskey, bourbon, or rye. They're all going to be great. I think that we got off on a good little run a couple of weeks ago about different kinds of citrus that pairs with different kinds of spirits.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Think about what spirit you want to pair with what citrus you have on hand too. If you only have limes, maybe go for, say, a rum or a tequila today. If you are lush with lemons, then
gin could be a good play. Mezcal works really well.
Uh-huh.
Obviously whiskey. Obviously and lemon is natural.
Your whiskey sours there.
Yeah.
So squeeze your juice.
Squeeze the juice.
Get your juice squeezed. Get your glassware out. We're going to be shaking cocktails today, so whatever you are using for a shaker, get that out. And thanks for joining us. Hey, John, nice to see you.
Put your glassware in the freezer while we're getting things set up here for sure.
Your servingware.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Not the mixing glass.
No,
we're shaking.
Yeah. No, we're shaking. Yeah, you don't want to do that. But yeah, so generally a daisy would generally get into a coupe. But you can put it on the rocks. So it really is dependent on how you like to enjoy cocktails. There's really no wrong way to do a daisy.
I'm sorry, I was reading McCarthy's. Do you pronounce your name D-I-S? D-I-S. I've never seen that first name before. You're making one for the wife.
There you go.
Making one for the wife.
There you go. It's not going to be that hard. Daisy's 3 simple ingredients. That are all part of the 15 bottle bar, and a little fresh lime juice or fresh citrus, I guess. So you could do either lemon or lime.
Thanks. Yeah. And I was just seeing your comment or your earlier diss. Thank you for being your first Kickstarter backer.
There you go.
Woo! Another like there. Give us some thumbs up if you guys are excited about our Kickstarter launch.
Well, we are.
We're very excited. We launched a full 2 hours after we'd intended this morning because that's how things go.
That's normal in the Kickstarter world, right?
Yeah.
If you launch within a couple of days from when you want to, that's pretty much like you're on top of your business.
I'd say that within 2 hours of our ideal, considering that,
Well, it's not your first rodeo either.
It's not, but it is the one that we planned in the shortest amount of time. And so I think that one of the things that's been great is we've been working on the concept for the cocktail journey since the fall. Mm-hmm. And many of you on the live stream are part of our founding members who came on in December and January when we just had an idea of what we wanted to put together. And you've been with us through 12, 13, 14 weeks of live streams as we've worked on perfecting it. As you can tell, we're still working on figuring out the right kinds of gear setups to try new things.
That's what we do.
And we're trying a new thing today, and it's working again.
Hi,
so
friends.
Thanks for your patience. All right, we are going to kick off this live stream now that we're on this great cam with a foray into the daisy. So we're going to launch this thing officially in 3, 2, 1.
Let's make a daisy, y'all.
Welcome to the cocktail journey.
I love it.
If you are joining us here for the first time, I'm Rachel Eva, And this is Stefan Krapinski.
Hey, friends.
We are friends in San Diego, and he's been a member of the bar community here for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, 15 years here in San Diego, another 5 up in San Francisco Bay Area. So that makes 20 behind the bar, 30-something in food and beverage world. So, and then these days I've been running around the country for a really beautiful coffee liqueur when I'm not here in town hanging out with good friends. So.
Yep. He was up in Temecula where it was nice and warm today. We're dealing with a warm day today for making daisies. We're so thrilled.
Yeah, I feel like anytime we break out the citrus in some cocktail shakers, it's a cold, blustery day in San Diego. I mean, as cold as it gets, but
for launching citrusy cocktails in the middle.
But you can tell from the sheen that both of us are ready for a daisy. So
we're so excited. Stefan's going to get started by pulling out his ingredients.
Yeah, so we're going to need basically 2 bottles, and I see one of them looking for the orange liqueur, which has got to be somewhere. But I'm going to use.
We got it for sure.
I'm going to use tequila because tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo, and the classic, like south of the border daisy is what we all know and love as the margarita. So we'll definitely be doing that, and then we'll need to find our Cointreau, which we are.
Got it.
Woo! Rachel on point. So we're going to use some sort of an orange liqueur, a triple sec. We're going to use Cointreau. It really is the classic. But if you don't have it, that's okay. You can use a dry Curacao from Pierre Ferrand, or anything that says triple sec. You can use Combier, which is very similar. They actually share a very similar recipe to Cointreau. So there's the 2 main bottles that we're going to need. Tequila obviously is our choosing, but you could use any base spirit really for a daisy. Anything that doesn't have a sugar content, right? So a distilled spirit. So from gin to aquavit to vodka to rum, whiskey, tequila, mezcal, you name it, you can use it for a daisy. And then we're going to use some fresh citrus. We're going to use lime because we're using tequila. But feel free to to call an audible, whatever you might have lying around your house. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a fresh lime. And then my traditional daisy spec is actually 2-1-1. So the way I usually, that's in parts, the way I usually make it into a glass and fit like a normal size coupe would be 1.5 ounces of spirit and 3/4 of an ounce of lime and triple sec. And that'll balance this drink out. The traditional daisy is an older cocktail, really gets its like real origin story in the 20s and 30s during Prohibition. There was a drink prior to that was very similar but had way less sugar, way less citrus in it, and it was called the Brandy Crusta. It's kind of the precursor to the sidecar, which was the first daisy. So this actually has a really beautiful balance, but it is a little bit on the drier side. So if you like a more modern, sour cocktail, I would just recommend adding a bar spoon to a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup on top of that 1.5, 3/4, and you'll get something that's a bit more modern. So this is going to be a little drier, which is amazing, but feel free to change it up as you like. Great. So I'll go ahead and start by using 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice in our beautiful jigger here. Hopefully I can get it with 1 lime.
It's always nice when you can do that. Those nice juicy limes.
Yeah, most limes, we're kind of out of season now for limes here in San Diego. Ooh, it was just a little shy. 1 moment, please. There we go.
So if y'all are not into daisies today, you make any drink you've experienced so far on the cocktail journey. I would love to hear also, what is your favorite drink that we've covered in the last 12 weeks?
Yeah, we're not looking to go really far in depth on this cocktail today. It's really just something to enjoy while we're listening to Rachel and Sean tell us more about the cocktail journey.
We got a lot to talk about. And you start thinking about your questions, because we're doing a true AMA session. I mean, we'll talk about the Kickstarter, and that's what it's here, but feel free to ask Sean and I anything that you want to ask.
There you go.
If Stefan's around, you can pick his brain too.
I'll be here for a while.
He's got a bike ride with the lady later.
Yeah, but that's a little later. All right, so we got our ingredients in. We're going to add our ice and give this a hard shake.
All right, John's going with gin, lemon, and simple syrup.
Okay.
I love gin and lemon together. They're just so delicious. This is going with Vulcan Blanco, Patron Cintrange.
Okay, yeah.
And unfortunately, plastic lime. I like the
plastic lime.
Plastic lime.
Plastic lime.
This little lime-shaped.
Yeah. Thank you.
JP's driving, so he's going to just enjoy the
scenic route.
Don't shake and drive.
the shaking sounds.
The ASMR.
Uh-huh.
Great. We'll go ahead and pour that right into a coupe glass. Since I have this extra half of a lime, I'll go ahead and put a little lime wheel in here. Traditional garnish on a daisy would be an orange peel, but our oranges are looking a little sad, so we're going to abstain.
It happens.
We're going to abstain. You would think this close to Orange County we'd have good oranges, but
I know.
we're a little out of season. Boom. There it is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I don't know if you can see that. Cheers, y'all. Cheers to the cocktail journey.
Yay!
Get your cocktail or your fancy water.
That's nice. Now, the tequila daisy is delicious. I'm missing the salt rim on a margarita. It really does make the sweet sour pop.
Mm. And if you want to, this is a perfect opportunity to let those of you who are not in the know that on Thursday we're going to do a deep dive into the margarita, aka the tequila daisy, with Brian Prugalidad. And so you can just click through, I think on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find it, or go to thecocktailjourney.com and go to live events, and you can RSVP for the event there.
There you go.
We also have it listed on our Kickstarter page, so we're super excited about that too.
And Brian is just an absolute legend. If you didn't see him a few weeks ago on the Gin and Tonic episode, if this is your first interaction with Brian Prugalidad, you're going to really enjoy him. And you're going to enjoy saying his name, for sure.
Yep.
Here in San Diego, in the bar community, we generally just call him Brian P. because it's a little easier. But I mean, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to be. It's nice to be able to flex on a.
It's fun.
On a good name.
I've always liked his name.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him first, and then I figured out he had a cool name. So, cheers to you all. Welcome. Thanks for joining us here today. Any questions, quick, on daisies or cocktails, or are you having a hard time making your drink and you just have a burning question that you want to ask Stefan while he's here on camera before we switch over to the tour? While you're thinking about that and typing it in the chat, I wanted to give you sort of a little map of the rest of the hour. Now that we all have cocktails, or soon to have cocktails, if we can help you wrap up your cocktail so that you can have one with you while you enjoy the tour. We're going to then switch to going mobile and give you a tour of our home bar and our studio. This is the place where I actually live also with Sean, who's behind the camera.
It's a nice place. It's a nice place.
And we moved here 2 years ago so that we could, one, sort of stay in the downtown area of San Diego, but then also deal with some very unique space needs, having a barware company, needing to store inventory, as well as needing to begin to invest in sort of a production studio setup. So we live here, we've got 2 kids, and it's quite an adventure living in a loft downtown with 2 children, especially in the last year.
I bet, yeah.
But
at least it's a big loft. It's not like a little baby one, you know.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's
with
true.
like really scary, you know, different levels, you know, with a, you know, ladder, some crazy rope ladder or something.
We have that tour advantage.
Yeah,
so,
at least it's one story. It's really long, really high ceilings. You can yell at people and it doesn't get too loud in here.
We can hang up Sean's, 7-foot umbrellas in the background.
There's like 8 of them. You'll see them real soon. You'll see.
More.
Yeah, you'll see how the whole sausage is made around here.
So we just wanted to give you a little bit of that view. This is mostly going to be a lot of our set, but if you've seen the Kickstarter video, you've seen a couple of different views of how we'll be filming our educational content, sometimes around the bar. Stefan's been in this position at some point.
I've been over here. I've been over there. We have aspirations to get out on the balcony up here, so we have all kinds of things we want to do.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give you that sort of that intro to tease you a little bit, because when we moved here 2 years ago, it was partly with the intention of building out a space where we could, 1, enjoy cocktails, 2, host family, friends, potentially folks like you at some point in the future when we become, get to the point where we can do that. But then also just creating a space where we could begin to invest in educational content. So the cocktail journey is an idea that actually started about 2 years ago when we realized that after spending 5 years making really great barware, that's great, but it doesn't do people any good if you still feel intimidated when you approach cocktails.
Right.
Or you look down at your bar and you're like, great, I've got all the stuff. I've got dozens and dozens of bottles, but you do the refrigerator stare and you're like, well, I guess I'll just pour myself some whiskey again tonight. And we all go through that. I think we all go through different stages and phases on our own journeys. And so
some of us just need a little push, like
just a little bit.
Yeah, because generally before COVID, it was a lot easier just to be like, I'll just go down the street and have them make me a daiquiri, like even though you have the limes probably because you just had taco night, and you should probably have some sugar in your cupboard and you definitely have some good rum because you might be a, rum fan or what have you. You could easily make that at home, like with, questionable ice even, and a daiquiri is going to be very, very tasty. So it's been rad watching them kind of develop this programming along with myself helping them out. But just like thinking about it, like where I was maybe 15, 20 years ago, I mean, like, man, I wish there was something like this, right? Especially if such high quality and having, the kind of people they've had on both on the camera and off camera to kind of really jumpstart the programming. And it's all looks so beautiful. I'm pretty stoked to see it just continue to skyrocket.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, Stefan's been a big part of that too. We always love working with people who believe in high fidelity cocktail experiences like us, but then can also approach the craft from a place of like accessibility and humility. We are not about snobbery or elitism here. It's all about wherever you are.
I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, as a bartender, I definitely had my years of snobbery.
Yeah.
I think we all can. We have to go through that trial of like, oh well, I'm doing something nobody else does. Until you realize literally we're all.
My suspender here.
Well, yeah. I mean, I definitely wore suspenders, but if you're working behind a bar doing a lot of this, and you're supposed to keep your shirt tucked in and everything in its place, like I'll tell you what, those suspenders really actually do a function.
Side note.
Yeah, beyond like it's just otherwise I'm constantly doing this. Like do you want to see your bartender doing this all the time, just keeping your pants up?
No, you don't want to see that.
Yeah, so like
I didn't even think about the function. See form, function, beauty.
Yeah,
all that
it all
here.
works out really well. These days I don't have to do that. I don't have my shirt stays in these days, which is really nice. But there's I think a lot of us, especially growing up in the early, like in the cocktail world in the early 2000s, I think we are all starting to get a little hoity-toity about cocktails, and it's been cool seeing that we crested that like 5 years ago, and we're coming back down and using more just basic ingredients and trying to get back to what we fell in love with,
Which is like simple cocktails made really well.
And so, these days, as opposed to putting 8, 9, 10 ingredients in a cocktail, when I can get away with 3 to 4, that's the sweet spot. And simple elegance is really what I think most of us behind the bar are striving for. So, and those things translate super well to, at-home cocktail bars, at-home bars, at-home kitchen bars, at-home counter bars, wherever. I think all that stuff translates super well. You just need a little push in that right direction.
Yep. Our first bar was on the back of a piano.
Yeah.
That we turned around for a party.
Piano bar. That's a literal thing, not just like, like there's a piano inside of a bar. That used to be a thing because it's a nice big surface.
Thank you for that feedback, Daniel. He says we're doing a good job communicating about cocktail knowledge without talking down to anyone.
Good. That's the whole idea, is that cocktails should be accessible, at least in its most basic, like raw form, right? And we can always get really nerdy about ingredients and certain house-made things and gum syrups and stuff. But when you're just talking about traditional, pre-prohibition or into prohibition cocktails, they should be elegant and delicious and not difficult and fussy to make at home.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. So while Sean's getting ready to take us on our tour, because I think we're almost ready for that, Matt said he's making mojitos with leftover mint. We did the mint julep last week with Megan Balzer. Yeah. If you missed that live stream, you can go to thecocktailjourney.com.
Did you guys go into how to like stabilize your mint so you can keep it in the fridge?
We did, and I showed them the stuff that you'd done like weeks ago that we still had. It was a little, it was like 3 weeks old.
I know, I have 3-week-old mint, and it's not bad either.
Green and all that sort of thing. All right,
cool.
So we're gonna switch cam real quick, and we're gonna get ready to take you on our tour. So. As Sean and Megan are getting the camera set up, you've got your DAC. I got my fancy water.
Oh, it's good.
Even when you're doing non-alcoholic cocktails, they just feel better when you put them in a nice
beautiful glassware, yeah.
I got some pebbled ice
85
left over.
panes there? That looks
Isn't
great.
That beautiful?
Yeah.
A little bit of Peychaud's bitters on tops.
Yeah, there you go. Herbal, delicious,
Mm-hmm.
refreshing. I love it. You should see
It's
this setup that
delicious.
Sean's got. He's got like the full gimbal setup. He's gonna strap it on right now for y'all.
Yeah.
Just picture like the big backpack and the overhead thing. That's what he's got.
It's not quite that bad.
Let him picture it in his mind. It's great.
So as you can tell, our home bar is here in our kitchen.
Right. Yeah. You can kind of scope it out. This is the kitchen. There you go. Yeah. See, I just made coffee back there for the team. Yeah. Right there it is. The coffee
There's a coffee
station.
station.
It was already starting the tour without you. Sorry, Sean.
Daniel, I'd like to say that we have a big San Diego balcony, but it's actually a loft-sized balcony, which means there's lots of space in the loft and this tiny little space outside.
I have the big patio, but I don't have the beautiful loft. Yeah. It's always a trade-off, right? Being in a city. I think most of us, that do live kind of city-like, you end up with that.
John, let's see if we're still calling him Steadicam Sean after we finish this. So, are we ready? All right.
Ready, baby.
All right.
Oh! BTS.
Welcome to our bar. We're going to take you to the front door so you can see the experience, starting at when we enter the place. You got cables. All sorts of wonderful things going on. The front door. Welcome to our loft. Here we are. Sean, you can feel free to narrate as well, although I don't know that you have a mic on. What do you want to show folks? This is your space just as much as mine.
The record player. There's the record player.
We've got a record player. This is one of my very first gifts to Sean. I think the first year we were married. Nice audio tech.
Editing bay.
Here's Sean's editing bay. This is where the editing work for the Cocktail Journey takes place. And I'm going to just go over these cables. Welcome to our home. Here's the setup for our live stream. You can see Stefan's there.
Yeah, I'm hanging out here. This is where my cocktail is.
This is the view
super zoom.
that Sean and our Megan, who's on our team, who's staying behind the camera to help support. They are the crew that's behind the scenes here for the most part. And as you can see, we bring in a lot of lights. We've got a 12-foot ladder as part of our setup. The camera usually sits right here, front and center, and then faces this way. And then this is the rest of the loft. We're not going to take you on a tour through the bedroom and the kids' rooms and all that, but just wanted to give you a look at the space and what we have here, and the beautiful ceilings, the postage stamp size outdoor area that we have. It's interesting because I think even a lot of our friends and family and community haven't even quite seen the loft because of this last year, and we haven't had a ton of people over. This is typically dining room. We have it open for, yoga in the mornings and production crew at night. And then we're back here at the bar. So that was the super quick tour. I hope that you enjoyed it.
Should we get the behind the bar?
Yeah. We were supposed to do that, right?
Do you have enough room there to just get a quick... Sean set this all up, so this isn't even me.
So this is a fun story. We actually built this main structure of this bar when we were at our old house where we lived for 10 years in Hillcrest, which is an old craftsman-style home. And when we moved here, we brought it with us and then made a bunch of improvements. But we went with, when Sean designed this, he went with a well design, very similar to sort of the kind of well that you'd see at a bar, but a little bit more clean, maybe.
Homely.
Less industrial, I guess you would say.
Yeah, it's not all stainless. Like it
We
would be
try
at a
to keep the 15 bottles. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This is 11.
Almost.
But we have enough space here for 15 bottles. It's about what we like to keep in our well with some bitters. And then we have tons of extra bottle storage underneath where we put the stuff that we don't use as often. But you can see all of our frequently used spirits we have here. We got some Fernet for after dinner, digestif. And then some space here. We've got a dump sink. It's not running water
Yet.
But it's got a bucket underneath. And so we can dump there. We have this little cooler here. We keep some ice on hand sometimes. If we have a lot of ice that we want to keep handy, or if we're doing a party, which we haven't been able to do a party in this space yet.
It's coming. It's coming.
You know,
vaccinations are going up.
It's coming. That's right. And we've got our little mini fridge down here. Nothing like some of you have. I know that you've got, some of you have like the actual full built-out stuff. But this is where we keep our vermouth and our simple syrup and our garnishes and everything that we want to keep nice and chilly. And that's a little look behind the bar. We hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to ask questions, post things in the chat. Give us your votes on whether or not Sean has earned the nickname Steadicam Sean.
Steadicam Sean.
And we're going to go back, switch to this for just a second while we get the camera back on its stand in the middle. Good to go, Murph. That's my little name for him. So Stefan's got a question from Daniel. Stefan did 211.
Yeah, it was 1.5 ounces of tequila or any base spirit, 3/4 of an ounce of triple sec, and a 3/4 ounce of lime. You could always bump that up to 211 if you have a larger vessel. If you're putting it in a big, double fashion glass, then I would recommend probably going with a bigger build. But feel free, like I said, if you have a bit more of a sweet tooth, as this is a dry kind of the traditional Daisy spec is a little drier, a little boozier. So feel free to, you can always mix it up and change it out. There's like a more modern variation, which would be 2 ounces of spirit, 2 ounces of spirit maybe, with 1/2 ounce of triple sec, 1/2 ounce of agave syrup or a simple syrup, and then 3/4 to a full ounce of lime. That's like another way to do it. That's a bit more of a hybrid between a Daisy and a traditional sour. You might need to adjust. We're like really bright, Shawnee. You bumped up the.
I can't see anything that you guys see, so.
Yeah, well, it was dark over in the corner, so I think you kind of brightened it up. I just look like blown out. It's amazing.
It's like star shots from the 80s.
There
right?
it is.
I can't see what you see, dude.
Yeah, it looks better.
It's looking better. How high are those ceilings, though? They're, I think, 12 feet on one side? And
15 on one side and 17 on the other.
Yeah.
15 on one, 17 on the other.
Huge.
Which is great. Sean and I don't know, just another quick little tidbit. Some of you may or may not know that Sean and I got our start as artists. The first big project, we've been working together on projects and doing creative design for, when was that first show? Was that 2007?
Wow.
So that's a long time. And that first project was an art show. And so we first were artists. And after doing painting and sculpture, our art just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until we were installing public art along like the Port of San Diego and in hospitals and doing all sorts of big art installations that also sort of transformed into event installations. We would do these New Year's Eve parties, these masquerades, and it would be all installation art all over the house and in the backyard and everything. So when we moved into the space, we just had the opportunity to kind of like think again visually as artists. And I think that's an important part of our story because coming to cocktails from the creative and an art-driven standpoint is really part of our origin story with the Barware Company as well. Because we saw people like Stefan and Brian and a lot of the bartenders that you've seen on the live streams, we've met in those early years of really appreciating the elevation of cocktail craft to like culinary status.
Right.
To like the art form of the cocktail.
Yeah, and a lot of us were still using red tip bar spoons. I mean, you guys don't have one, but you guys don't have one, which is great because they're ugly.
On purpose.
And they also destroy your fingers after using them over a couple of evenings. I mean, these are beautiful, right? Because there's really nothing, so you're just like, it's really smooth. But depending on the gnarl, like the gnarling, like this is smooth edged, but those like cheap $5 options will at your home bar might work just fine when you're mixing a cocktail once or twice a week. But if you're doing 50 cocktails stirred in a couple hours, then you start developing some really nasty, calluses
or
and blisters and whatnot, depending on So
one of the things was we were sitting in the bar talking to you guys about bar spoons, and you switched to that straight handled bar spoon. Mm-hmm. Well, it was at Lion Share, and I remember talking to I don't remember who it was there.
It was either Jason O'Brien or David Ty, or
it was even before David Ty was there.
Wow,
I know, it was back.
I don't even remember who was there before David.
David Palacios.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So talking about how these spoons would just fall apart because they weren't made correctly.
Yeah, they weren't one continuous piece of metal. Yeah, so they would just fall apart.
Anyway, so origin story for Standard Spoon was let's make some we know how to do this. We know how to design things. We know how to make things. We'd started working with fabricators and manufacturers through our art career, and we said let's make something that's worthy of. Yeah. This elevated craft that we're experiencing and that we appreciate so much. So Standard Spoon came from elevating the standard in barware with 2 bar spoons.
Yeah, I remember when you guys came out with this, and I was like, what do I do with this straight? Because I've had, what do I do with this? I'm not used to this. It was weird. I had to get the full tour from Sean and Rachel of why they did this the way they did, and then once they gave me the why behind it, I'm like, yeah. I didn't even think of it. My spoon was I was suffering through my spoons. I was I didn't think and they also standardized the amount of liquid it can hold here on the spoon, which is really cool because every single bar spoon has a different amount that you can fit in there.
Mm-hmm.
The red tip bar spoon had this huge flat spoon that would fit an ounce.
An ounce of liquid.
I used a lot of Japanese spoons because they had surgical grade steel that wouldn't fall apart and wouldn't degrade.
Mm-hmm.
But they had the smallest little spoon on them, so a bar spoon was actually 3 little guys. So that was a game changer too, for sure, especially for home bars because. You can really standardize everything. If you like the bar spoon of rich, simple, and your old fashioned, you knew every time it was going to be that same one, which is cool.
Yep. So that's what Stefan is talking about is the standardizing of the measurement of the liquid that's held in our bar spoon is exactly 1/8 of an ounce.
Which is dope.
When you even consider the surface tension of the meniscus being held. So
that, obviously thought goes into that, and I think I know. I mean that. You guys put that level of thought into everything you guys do, and I think it's apparent with what you guys are building out with Cocktail Journey and how everything's looking, and obviously all the content that comes out. Even when there's little hiccups on the live streams and stuff, this is by far some of the most beautiful content I've ever seen, especially in the cocktail world. Usually it's kind of meh. If you're lucky if you get a really good shot of the cocktail, but not much else. So it's been cool to see somebody try to put some effort into the whole process, right, of making a delicious cocktail from, having the right ingredients to having the right know-how to having all the little tips and tricks to make it the best that it can be for minimal effort to, the communication and all that stuff. I think that you guys put a lot of effort.
Thanks, Stefan. We've always had a high degree of, it's really nice to hear those words coming from Stefan because we've always had a high degree of respect for him and the level of quality that he brings to his craft. He's also a great content producer and photographer and makes some amazing images. So
it's been a hobby for years that I've apparently recently turned into more than that. But there's nobody better than the guy right behind the lens right now. So
who needs to come out from behind the lens?
I don't know. Ansel didn't have a whole lot to work with.
Time to come, Sean. Time to come.
He had a wooden tripod.
Yeah, had a wooden tripod, which is, for that is amazing. Here, can you?
Is this color coordinated enough?
Jesus.
We didn't plan this, I swear. Oh my goodness. That is clashing though, because mine is more.
Are you gonna
I
give
don't
this
know.
to me?
Yeah, sure. Don't you want to?
Well, if I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna make a drink.
You should.
So.
Sean's glass is empty.
Also, I don't really get to make a drink on this show. I'm just gotta watch. It's kind of painful.
But you get to drink them all. We hand them across the bar to you.
Perks of the job.
Until
you can't do that on any of the
definitely
shows.
watching. Don't mess this up.
All right, he's gonna watch. I'm gonna be very careful.
Take what you learn.
If I spill anything, I'll clean it up.
While Sean is prepping his cocktail and I'm refilling my fancy water, this is how it works. Fancy water, dash of bitters. Look at how beautiful that looks now. This makes me feel like I can enjoy a little cocktail with the guys. So you're gonna make a classic margarita as well?
Sometimes that's all you need.
That's it.
You know?
It's Taco Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo's tomorrow.
Part and parcel to like all the drinks in the ether of cocktaildom. Cocktaildom? Cocktaildom. There's just like I think sometimes the tyranny of choice is like the worst thing. When you look at this long list of drinks and you're like, what? I don't know. I think that's why, like, to me, I like that we're doing the Daisy today because, like, to me, like, I'm like, if I had to choose one daiquiri that makes me happy, it's a daiquiri.
One daiquiri.
Every single time. Or, I mean, a margarita is like right there. I mean, I don't know that I get that much happier with a daiquiri. It'd be some kind of creepy stuff. But like, yeah, this is just so refreshing and like, I don't want anything boozy right now. I want something refreshing.
So while he's making his cocktail, we're going to enter just sort of an open Q&A period, and I'll pepper it with little things that I think you guys should know about what we're doing. But I really would love for you all to come and ask your questions. If you have had a chance to check out the Kickstarter, if you've backed it or not backed it, would love to hear from you. I'm sure like we do as much as we can to think about and plan for how to explain these things. But as I've spoken with some of you about it, it's a kind of, the cocktail journey is a bit of a different project than we've done before because it's really easy when you want to tell somebody that you want to make this. You just show them this and you say, we want to make this thing. And doing something like the cocktail journey, which has a lot of different moving parts and I think a lot of richness and depth to and layers to the experience is a lot harder to talk about and communicate. So we hope we did a good job. We're going to be continuing to illustrate the members build the build out of the members site over the course of this month and probably add some more like little digital tours and that sort of thing so you can see what's happening. But I would love to know right now on day one, what are the things that you still are wondering about? What are your questions about either the memberships levels, what you're going to get, what to expect, what you want to see? What are the questions that are unanswered for you? Because that's what we want to answer here today. We always have a respectful pause when we have shaking going on here. Going back to Daniel's first question, do you always keep your tools there on the bar top? We tend to keep, I think, the shakers and, I won't show it to you, but the shakers and the glassware up on the bar top. I think partly because it's storage and it just kind of looks nice, it makes it feel great. We don't like a lot of clutter, but those things are kind of nice and uniform in terms of like having shakers. It makes us feel like we have a bar. I think Sean also likes the bokeh sometimes from a shooting perspective, which is a photography term. When you see a photo like of a cocktail and you see that beautiful like out of focus fuzzy light in the background, that's called bokeh. Actually, Chris, who's on our team here, taught me that word when I was working with him on a project around telling the stories of artists many years ago. And so that's that question. Thanks to those of you who are interested in and gave some great comments on the tour. And I'm just going to run through some of these questions right now. If I'm looking down here, it's because I'm looking at your comments. So I'm paying attention to you still here on camera. And
let's go back to bokeh for a second. It's not bokeh, it's bokeh. That's how you say it when you're in the industry. Bokeh!
Daniel, thanks for filling in those specs that Stefan went back and mentioned for the 2-1-1 ratio for the Daisy. And
that's all you need.
Oh yeah, the Elevated Craft is a great shaker. We backed him on Kickstarter too. Adam and I actually chatted before he launched his crowdfunding campaign about how to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, I think it would be really exciting to make sure that's in our camping kit. Like that's probably for us. That's probably how we'll use it when we go camping. That's a great tool to take with you because it's got
it's got everything you need all in one shaker.
It's bulletproof.
And it's insulated.
It's insulated.
John, thanks for sharing the Kickstarter link with some friends. It's helpful that we've got the first few months of the live streams to share. I think that was really important for us. And for those of you who don't know, this is actually our 5th Kickstarter. So talk about it not being our first rodeo. And yet at the same time, every single time we do one, it's like it's kind of like the first time in a little bit of the way because it's different every time. One of the things that we were really excited about here is that we felt like we had spent the time to build out sort of the prototype of the cocktail journey over the last few months. And to a huge degree, thanks to the support of these 50 to 60 founding members that came from mostly, I think, our Standard Spoon community and people who are already really engaged with the work that we were doing around barware, you said, yes, I want to support you in this too. And you signed up for annual and lifetime memberships before we even did our first live stream. And then you waited so patiently while we got all of our shit together to begin doing these. And you've showed up every week to give us feedback and help us refine the experience. So, when we launch a bar tool product on Kickstarter, we usually have some kind of a physical prototype. And for the cocktail journey, it's having done 12 weeks of live streams, having worked with and talked to and had extensive conversations with bartenders and with some of you. John Park is one of those people that I had an hour-long conversation with back in November because I sent out an invitation. I said, hey, I've got this new idea, and if you think we're finally ready to launch it, we want to hear from you if what we're thinking about making is something that makes sense for you. And John spent an hour on the phone with me. I think John Schmidt also, both of you. I remember talking to John in Pittsburgh and then John Park in Orange County and having those great conversations. And thank you for that time because those conversations helped to shape what we began building out. And we always want to start with our community in mind, with the people that are...
Don't hesitate to do that. We love to read it, even if it's not necessarily positive in our side. We want to know what it is that you guys see and what it is that you guys want to hear. So definitely do that if you have something in your mind.
I'm not getting very many questions. This is like
We're
AMA
doing too good
style.
of a job, or there's no one there?
You can ask questions that you're just curious about too.
I don't know. Either way.
I just checked for a second. I said, is there no one there? No, we've got folks in our audience. If you just came to hang out and you want to just shoot the shit about whatever, that's fine too. I can keep talking, but I would love to keep talking in the direction that you have questions or are curious. What do you want to say?
I can't look at her because it's just like it's married. As soon as I look at her,
I know.
Do you guys know what that means?
Do any of you work with the person that you're married to?
Oh man.
That's an interesting part of the journey. You can ask about that if you want.
Yeah, that is actually, I'll talk about that for a second. It's interesting. Okay. It's really rare to be able to work with the person that you are married to. And so I think that we're aware that that's the case. And we're just, I think, sort of just lucky that's been part of our relationship since we met. Like, it's just like, you like to do this? Well, how about this? And it's just like a good collaborative relationship, and it's awesome. And I think we have been fighting to work together more rather than less. And like doing from the Standard Spoon journey into cocktail, or the Standard Spoon side of the journey to the cocktail journey, it's really interesting. Like you invest in the brand or in the company, and like you both kind of take on different roles. And when you're in a startup, you're doing everything. So the idea is to offload some of the tasks, but then we like to work closely, and we wind up working separately a lot. And so, I don't know, I think that's, to me, the Kickstarter experience I really enjoy because I get to work with her more, and because you have to, because like there's lots of collaborating. There's lots of the campaign period is a campaign, and so you're campaigning, which is like a whole thing. And I don't know. I really enjoy it because we have to work together. So that's the dynamic from my side.
Well, I say ditto to that. I love it and love being creative with you, even though you chose a shirt that was clashing with mine.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you sit with that. Sean likes to make people feel just a slightly awkward sometimes.
Yeah, like the composition of this frame.
Is it bothering anyone that it's askew a little bit? It's okay if you want to raise your hand and say, please fix that camera. Okay, a couple of great questions. Thanks, John, for your validation about the communication strategy. We do tend to over-deliver and over-communicate because we feel like if you got what you needed, you can walk away, but there are people that still have more questions. And that's how we've done all of our Kickstarter campaigns, too, is we will run into challenges. We have run into challenges with every single bar tool that we produce. Any one of you that has ever started anything, opened a business, opened a restaurant, had a kid, gotten married, moved into a new house, had to remodel your kitchen, you know, stuff goes wrong. It never goes the way that it's planned. But as long as you plan to have a plan to communicate and to solve those problems, then that's the way that we like to approach these. A couple of other great questions. John, it's killing him. He's tilting his monitor.
I'll fix it. Should I fix it?
Sean, you go fix it. I'll answer one of these questions. So Dis had a great question. Can we say anything about what a home bartender might get out of the growth package? This is a great question. I'm going to talk a little bit about the membership levels as well as the different kind of people that might see themselves on this journey. It's like tilted. It like needs to go this way. It's because it's on the... Oh, you got it. He knows things. He knows better than me. Especially when it comes to... Do I need to move this way? I need to move this way. Especially when it comes to camera stuff. That's why we give him the camera, not me.
Get there.
Okay, so in terms of the different sort of membership levels, one of the things that I love about the cocktail journey and I'm very excited about is that we think that this is for anyone who wants to make cocktails at home, no matter where you are on your journey. And there are people, and we have some members. I had a member write me. She said, I am so excited about this. I pretty much just know how to pour a glass of wine.
It was me.
And so, no, it wasn't. But she was really excited to get started because she'd never picked up a bar spoon before. She'd never made a cocktail at home. And I bet some of you have been in that boat before, where you realize you love cocktails, but then you realize that there is like a significant knowledge gap between knowing what you like about a cocktail at a bar and knowing how to pick a good cocktail on the menu and maybe even knowing a ton about different ingredients and liqueurs and nerdy things that you love to absorb from bartenders. But then you come home and you want to make one of these and you're like, wait, what do I need? And so for people who are at that stage on their journey, I think that that's the Foundation's membership is exactly what we have. We are not interested in overwhelming you with the world of cocktail knowledge and nerdiness, with the levels of what cocktail craft that you could attain to. You know, there's that can be too much and it can be too overwhelming. And so how do we make this really easy for you to join us on the live streams, join us wherever you are on the journey, get started with the basics, how to shake a cocktail, how to stir a cocktail. When do you shake a cocktail versus when do you stir a cocktail, and these kinds of things. If you feel like you're in that bucket of people or in that boat, but you're also curious about what the growth membership levels offer, it's sort of, once you catch the cocktail bug, where do you want to go from there? The main difference between what we're offering, and so what we want to do with the growth and sort of our vision for the cocktail journey is pretty in-depth, it's pretty intense, it's pretty involved. We're really excited about it. If you followed any of our campaigns or listened to what Stefan said, we really like to nerd out on the things that we like to spend time on. When we did the Napier Jigger, I think Kevin Kelly from Wired Magazine posted that it was the most obsessively designed jigger that he'd ever encountered. And so we are aware that if we're going to do something, we want to do it really, 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 really well. And that can be very time-consuming. It can be very involved. It can be very expensive. And so we wanted to make sure that while we want to pursue that and go into this like down the rabbit hole, and there are probably those of you that want to go down the rabbit hole with us, not everyone wants to do that for $15 a month or more. And so that's why we have sort of this $5 a month, really accessible, come to our live streams, get the basic cocktail education, explore the tutorials, all of the introduction to bartending techniques. You don't have to peer down the rabbit hole yet, but it'll be there when you're ready. So growth level content is going to be more intermediate and advanced bartending techniques. When we think about the on-demand content that we're filming, and this will be sort of a huge wealth of, it's a library. Chris doesn't want me to use the word knowledge base, but it's that. Just be transparent.
Everyone in the startup space has certain words that just grind their gears. And
knowledge base is one of them.
That's okay.
But think like articles, short videos that are like 30-second tips, up to like full hour master classes and deep dive tutorials. Think about 5-part series where we bring in experts to talk about like the nerdiest distillation techniques about this exclusive cachaça or Singani or right. And so that's going to be there at sort of the intermediate and advanced level. And the content covers a couple of areas. It's that sort of thing around spirits education. It's bartending techniques, so more advanced techniques. You want to talk about, I don't know, fire and ice and aquafaba and fat washing. We'll get into fat washing at some point. You don't need to know about fat washing to get started on cocktails. Those things are part of that educational roadmap. The other part is those who want to be involved in sort of expanding beyond the 15-bottle bar. There are some of you in our audience today who have hundreds of bottles in your bar. We respect you. And we know that 15 bottles is just not going to do it for you. And there are places where we want to go beyond the 15 bottles to explore like all the different kinds of rum, all the different kinds of gin, all the different kinds of fruit brandies and different kinds of distilled liqueurs and spirits. And those things are things that we want to do. We've got to build the foundations first. But at the growth level, we'll start to do that kind of thing. Think about like tiki live streams where we get into all these different kinds of funky rums that you might want to have. And those things, we just need to put sort of a line that separates sort of the easy and accessible. How do you first start? What are the first 5 bottles in your bar to work up to 15? And then at the growth level and beyond, it's like now we're really getting into the weeds, which some of us really like to do. But you don't have to go there if you don't want to. I probably repeated myself a few times in there. Anything to add?
No.
We call this the Penn and Teller Act. All right, I'm going to go back, stop chatting, and so I hope that answered your question, Dis. If you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. Daniel, quick answer to your question, how far have we planned out the 1-week cocktail choices? We have selected all the 52 cocktails that we're going to be making with the 15-bottle bar. And we've planned them out, I think we're probably about 3 or 4 months in advance. And so I think that we've got the schedule set through July. And we're working on right now shooting all those cocktails so that when we publish them online and set up the live stream links, they've got an image to go with them. I know that I think our live stream calendar on the website right now is a little behind. Our goal is to always have the next 4 cocktails on the calendar.
It's my fault.
He likes to take the blame most of the time, but actually this time it might be. Because we're getting ready to launch a crowdfunding campaign. But I can tell you what they are, and they're actually listed on the Kickstarter page. So this week we were doing the Margarita. Next week we're doing the Clover Club. The week after that we're doing the Gold Rush cocktail. Yes. And the week after that we are doing the Hanky Panky, which is a fun one. And after that I think it's the Tea Punch. Tea punch. I like the way Stefan says it. And I think we're doing daiquiri in June and a couple of others. So if that's something that you'd like to see further out in advance, let us know in the chat and the comments. Okay. Just catching up on some of these. Thanks, JP. JP actually was one of our first followers on our brand new Instagram account. So I'm going to call you out.
Oh.
JP also has a great Instagram account at A Better Well. I wanted to let you know that it's beautiful, beautiful work. We just put up our social media channels for the cocktail journey. They're brand new, so please have some grace because we haven't put a lot of content on there yet. But if you go to thecocktailjourney.com/Kickstarter, or if you just go to cocktailjourney.com, the top line is Kickstarter. You'll see a bunch of social icons there under share, follow and share on the website, and you can go and click and follow each of our accounts. I would love it if you would do that. That would be really helpful. Start growing the online presence here. Stargazer says, I started my craft cocktail hobby during the pandemic. Do you think that is true for the explosion of the craft cocktail hobby in general? Do you want to take a turn?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to keep talking?
I don't know. I
going.
think that it's maybe just fortunate timing that you discovered the world of cocktails during the pandemic. I think that's kind of a fun discovery.
And I think a lot of people did because we couldn't go out and drink at bars, right?
Yeah. I think if what we're going through now had happened like 10 years ago, it would have been a lot harder to access the information. I think right now there's lots of good content creators and like there's really a lot of ways to access like some really good voices out there. But I think there probably has been a bump in cocktails, craft cocktail, high fidelity cocktail, whatever you want to call it, in the last year. I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah. Although I think a lot of people, we definitely got into cocktails at home a little bit more. At about the time when in San Diego, like everywhere had a craft cocktail bar, you couldn't be a restaurant and not have a craft cocktail program. And what happened at that point was that I think the fidelity of the cocktails that we were having out went down. And so when you think about that, if there's a huge explosion in terms of the popularity of craft cocktails, it's really hard to keep the standard of the craft elevated because you just don't have enough senior bartenders to train folks on the methods for creating them. And so
there's an interesting dynamic too. A lot of you may not know this if you're not from SoCal. San Diego is kind of like a specific, strange food and drink city. We have restaurants that have really good bar programs here. We don't have a ton of them right now, but LA has like way less, like none. One or is it like one or two or three maybe now, Stefan?
What's the question?
Well, specifically bar programs in restaurants that are family friendly. Like that's kind of a San Diego thing more than an LA thing.
Sure.
Like if you're in LA, you're kind of in a desert if you want food and a really good cocktail, especially now because like some of the best ones that were left, like Cole's and a few others, are gone. So if you want like a good meal and a great cocktail, like for a while, San Diego was like leading edge.
At least in Southern California.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm glad to hear that you're making your third drink. So you've obviously like adopted cocktail craft at home during the pandemic, and you're on to number 3. As you can see, our community is pretty engaged. Thanks, John, for answering Stargazer's question about dry curacao versus Cointreau. Make that cocktail. How dare you? Okay, great. What other questions do we have? I'm curious to know. I think Burgeon said if you wanted to upgrade to the growth level, can you get your foundation level to someone? Burgeon, if you're already an existing Cocktail Journey member, then you could also just email me, Rachel Eva at standardspoon.com. If you email info@thecocktailjourney.com, that goes to me too. I'll get my own email address one of these days too, and we can figure out an offline upgrade if you want.
If you're good.
But you can also gift it. So that's one thing that we are doing on the Kickstarter is that if you back at any level, you can also add on a gift membership. So you can add on an annual or a growth. So Burgeon, if you wanted to go and back the Kickstarter at the growth level, and you already have an existing Foundations membership, we can sort that out after the Kickstarter and just give the growth level one or the Foundations level one to somebody. Absolutely. The other thing that I wanted to mention, oh my goodness, we're already at 5:30. This is your last chance to put in a question, an AMA question. Going once, going twice, put in the comments. I'll make a mention and then I'll check the comments to see if we have any other questions, last minute questions. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we are doing an early bird special on our Kickstarter campaign where you get a free Napier jigger, one of these guys, one of our best-selling tools. If you get a lifetime or an annual membership in the first 48 hours. It's technically through the end of Thursday's live stream, so you have until like 5:30 on Thursday in order to do that. If you're an existing Cocktail Journey member and you want a free jigger too, you don't have to go and buy a membership. Just back at the $1 level, which is our tip jar level. You can throw in some extra tips too if you want. We're always good for that. And then just put a comment on the Kickstarter page and share the campaign with a friend. That's it. Click on one of the social sharing buttons on Kickstarter, and putting those comments on the campaign, actually, any of you who are backers or you know anything about Kickstarter, it's really, really helpful to have comments on our Kickstarter page. This is one of our insider tips, if any of you are ever thinking about doing a Kickstarter in the future, because it shows Kickstarter we have a really engaged group of people, and our goal is to become a project we love on Kickstarter, which will boost our visibility and get us in front of more people.
I love it.
I love it too. We need 1,000 members to establish a baseline and build the fountain so that we can keep building this out. If we get to that, it's going to be great. We would love to get to that number this month. So if you can share often, you can share intentionally. I think some of the most effective sharing is when you do one-on-one shares with people that you know are specifically going to be interested. It's going to be so much more fun because when your friends are on the live stream with you or making the same cocktails, it just becomes even more of a community experience. So I don't see any more comments or questions. If you are too shy to put them into the chat because you're an introvert, I've been there. You can send an email to info@thecocktailjourney.com. And the last thing I would like to say is cheers to you and yours. We hope that you have a wonderful week. Join us on Thursday for the margarita.
Yes.
And please go back our Kickstarter project. It will really help us a lot.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Cheers to you. Number 5. Kickstarter, not kid. Cheers, Dis. Thanks for being our first backer.